I'm Tekeitha.
And I'm Prana Supreme, and
we're
One
the Duo.
And this is Nothing to Lose But Yourself, hosted by Ricky Day.
My guest on the podcast today is One the Duo. They are the first, y'all, the first Black mother-daughter duo in country music. Yeah, you heard me right. And their story is rooted in hip hop. What am I talking about? Well, Tekeitha, the mom, is a featured female vocalist for the Wu-Tang Klan, and Prana Supreme, her daughter, is also the daughter of RZA, who's the founder and de facto leader of Wu-Tang. Together, they are pioneers, and they're becoming the first artists to journey from hip-hop to country music. Now, in 2016, after moving to Nashville, they created their own hybrid country style with a diverse range of musical influences, including Chris Stapleton, Fleetwood Mac, the Judds, and Motown. But yet, it's a sound all their own, so I can't wait to share them with you guys. They were also named by CMT the Next Women of Country earlier this year, and One the Duo stands for Observant, Noetic, and Effervescent. Their release, which is the debut release, it's called Blood Harmony. It's going to be released on August 11th of this year, and the 12 track release, say that 3 times fast, it's storytelling, unique storytelling. It's a through line from hip hop to country music. And they claim the space that they are due, and they are forging their own path. And enough of me, enough of this introduction. Let's get into the conversation with the ladies. What's going on, you guys? How are you?
Doing so good. Hi, Ricky Day.
I've been looking forward to this for a while. For those of you who are listening who don't know or watching who don't know, I just was introduced to these ladies a little earlier this year by a good mutual friend of ours, Luster Chauncey. Shout out to Luster, out here educating the next generation. And he came at me and he was like, bro, what are you doing, big brother? You got to come down to Times Square. I'm in this music video that my bestie did, and it's premiering. I'm like, okay, it's premiering in Times Square. That sounds cool. What is it? He's like, it's premiering on the country music television. I'm like, country music? Wait, what? Yes, my best friend and her daughter, they're a mother-daughter duo. They're doing country music. I'm like, okay, I know you have all kinds of friends, but they're Black. You sound like they're Black. Yeah, they're Black. Wait, a Black mother-daughter duo in country music? Yeah. Oh, and you remember Tekeitha? I told you about her before. And then she used to work with RZA and RZA. Well, RZA is the father of the daughter. I'm like, wait, RZA, Wu-Tang country. Yeah. I was like, my head was spinning, as I'm sure people's heads are spinning right now. So
Right.
Let's start this from the beginning. Tekeitha, let's start with you. Give us a little bit of background on who you are, where you're from, how you came up in the music industry, and how we got to this moment. And then I want you to do the same thing, Prana.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Sacramento, California, is where I was raised, born in Stockton, but raised in Sacramento. And my pathway to music, like getting to music, was very obscure. I didn't sing in the church choir or anything like that. I kind of forged my own lane where music was concerned. By moving to Atlanta, then Chicago, and kind of like just blazing my own trail as an MC first. I was strictly rhymes from the beginning of my career, and then moved into vocals in the early 90s, like 90, 93. 94. And I was introduced to Wu-Tang through a friend. Shout out to Dante Perkins, which is so funny because he had come to Chicago to visit. I was with a management group at the time called Kingsley, the Kingsley Group. They were a sports entertainment firm. And I had only done a few songs with them. And I had let him hear it. He came to Chicago for a visit. I let him hear the songs. They were on can't remember if it was a tape or a CD. But in any case, when he left town, he stole it. and it was during the Million Man March. I will never forget that, because he was going to the Million Man March to meet up with some of the Klan members and, some of the executive producers with the Klan and management. And he was friends with them.
That's Wu-Tang Klan for anybody who just jumped in.
Right. And now I didn't know I didn't know any of that. I knew where he was going and why he was
Mhm.
going, but I had no idea what kind of connection he had with Wu-Tang or anything. I didn't even realize he had stolen the CD until like a day or two later. And I called like, yo, where's my, you seen the tape or CD, whatever the music that I was playing? He was like, oh yeah, I took that. I was like, wait, what?
So cavalier.
So yeah, and but long story short, it was because of that I'm literally here today. You know, got very quickly after that. They came, one of the executive producers and managers of the Klan came to Chicago to see me perform, and we just linked up and never separated after that. It was like the beginning of my career started then. Within 2-3 months, I was signed to Razor Sharp Epic, worked on the solo project from there. RZA and I got connected. We were definitely like little mad scientists, you know,
Mhm.
because a
Creative
lot of what
bond.
I was doing musically at the time just wasn't being done. I always loved a kind of a haunting production style, and the way that I rhyme and sing over that kind of music, it really made for a perfect fit for RZA and I creatively.
Mhm.
And then I went on throughout my career, not just focusing on Wu-Tang or my kind of the featured work I did with them. I branched out into other genres of music, including, you know, house, what they're calling now global music, or, you know, or what
Yeah.
was world music, they're calling global music, I guess now. And R&B and soul, obviously, and hip hop is the foundation. I am hip hop, you know, so it's very interesting to kind of cross these genres, knowing that they're just one pure expression for me. So
Mhm.
although I love the hip hop to country stamp that we're making, Prana and I, it's almost like I just view it as another form of expression, you know.
Mhm.
But that's kind of like my journey in a nutshell, from my beginning, you know, of my kind of my experience with coming into music. Um,
Thank God the brother borrowed that CD and took it with him, because
Listen,
look at
and
what it brought.
what's funny about that too is he not only did he borrow it, I never got it back. He let his folks hear it, Howard Edwards and Tyree Supreme. He let them hear it. Then they let Method Man hear it. Then Raekwon heard it, and then RZA heard it. And then it was, by the time I ended up meeting all of the Klan, it was at MTV backstage in the green room. It was during the Woo Where How High kind of time. I can't
Oh
remember
yeah.
exactly what month or what year that was, but obviously it was in the first year that I had met them, so it had to have been 95.
Mhm.
And everybody had heard the song. And when Method when Method Man was being introduced to me, he just started singing the hook of my favorite song out of those three songs. It was a song called Unknown, and he started singing my hook. And mind you, this is like Wu Tang at the height of Wu Tangness. So I
Height.
was sitting there
Yeah.
like like Method Man is singing my song to me that no one in the world has ever heard. Like, it wasn't like this music was released.
Right.
I was just getting my sea legs at that point, you know. So those were the first recordings I had ever done, and then here I am today.
Well, that's dope. Thanks again to that brother for putting you on, because
Yeah,
he
shout
definitely
out to
helped put you on.
Dante.
And not only did your, I mean, your talent obviously made room for you and made your career, but he definitely gave you a helping hand up. But the other thing he helped bring into this world indirectly is sitting right next to you.
I
Tell me a little bit
know.
about that story.
The greatest gift. The greatest gift. Promise Supreme.
Prana, where'd you get to grow up at?
Oh man, my childhood was very interesting because I was talking to someone about this recently, where I was just like, I spent a lot of time around adults
Hmm.
as a kid, and not in a way where I like felt like, oh man, I'm with all these adults. Like, I always felt comfortable in these spaces, but I just, you know, lived a life that was filled with a lot of music and a lot of traveling and being on the road and exploring and experiencing new places, and something that I would never take for granted, because now, you know, at 22, I had so many life experiences and so many more to go. But it's just crazy because it's like, I always say this to mom and other people, but I thought that when you were born you got a passport, because my first passport is a picture of me when I was 6 months old. So I just assumed that like everyone at 6 months gets a passport.
Not
But no, that was
Everyone,
just
at
but
all how
everyone
that
yeah.
should. Everyone should get a passport at 6 months, though, without a doubt.
No, seriously. But yeah, I just I grew up constantly surrounded by music and musicians, and so I feel like it was inevitable for me to kind of fall into my love for music. I know my parents really tried, and especially mom, to help cultivate other interest in me, and so
Mhm.
I definitely am a huge nerd. I like to say that I'm a closet nerd, but I said that once and someone's like, "You're not, though. You're
That's
really
cold.
not." I was like, "Oh, okay, well."
What closet?
Yeah, exactly. The closet's made of glass, babes.
Listen,
And
us nerds have to stick together. Nerds, we don't look the way we used to, but we're still nerds, and it's all good. I own it.
yes,
I own it. It's all good.
Big
yeah.
facts.
And so I always had a great interest in science and reading, theater. For a while, I wanted to be an anthropologist. I felt like just the idea of traveling the world and studying cultures and the human life.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I could do that all day and every day. You know what? I say never give up. On those dreams. This doesn't have to be forever. This version of my career, but eventually, even with all those other loves, I still just like kept coming back to like music and acting, and I was doing plays, and I was in uh, choir, and I what else was I doing? I was in dance classes. I was doing everything and anything,
You had your
and
finger in all the pies. That's a good thing, though.
yeah, exactly. And I felt like there was no limit on what I could do creatively, and especially because that's how mom really fostered that in me. And so when I was 14, that was when I would end up coming to mom and being like, "Hey, like let's like seriously sing and write songs together." Because at that point, mom has been my only music teacher in my life and like taught
Mhm.
me how to write a song, and I've had like a song book since I was 5 years old. And at that point, from like 12 to 14, mom was like really letting me help her write songs more often, and she's always let me come to the studio and participate, but it was just a little bit different and felt a little more intentional this time around for a reason that I'm not sure. Actually, never asked you
You
why.
evolve.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, development wise,
yeah,
think
yeah,
about
yeah,
it, you know?
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you've evolved and you've grown, and I was curious. You answered part of it in your answer that you just shared with me, but I was curious about what's behind your sensibilities as a young person, because there's such a maturity that sits
Mm-hmm.
inside you. There's a this sense of wisdom already in you
Mm-hmm.
at this young age, and I suspect that has something to do with being around older people, but it also probably traveling helps. Is there anything else that you would call out that kind of contributed to you kind of being where you are and your maturity as a young
Um,
woman?
that's a
Good
great
question.
question.
Yeah.
I think because we've talked about this recently, but I think it's the confidence. Honestly, it's the confidence of someone that's kind of been here before or done this before.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people chalk it up to youth, but I have other friends that are my age or mainly older than me, and it is not innate. Like
Mm-hmm.
at 22, they were not walking around with the confidence that I had. They had to get
Yeah.
there, but I've been so self assured since I was like 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like,
Mhm.
and not in the sense of like I know everything,
No.
or you can't tell me anything, because that lacks humility, and that's your ego, but just in a way of like I feel sure about it, and someone else can't tell me different or convince me that I'm something else or I'm someone else. And I think when you have that kind of mental fortitude, it comes across really mature, and you're able to engage in different conversations with all levels of people because you just feel like in your skin.
Yeah, always.
Absolutely.
She's been that
Tekeitha,
way
what?
since she was 4, like 3 or 4 years old, even. Because you
Mhm.
say 5, I find that interesting,
Mhm.
and maybe you just
I
can't go back
say,
that
yeah,
far.
I say five because that five just feels like a good starting point for like real self consciousness, like
Mm-hmm.
conscious of self. And you
Mm-hmm.
having your first time, you're like, I'm gonna remember this,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
she displayed so much, to use the word she used, innate wisdom, at even 4 years old, just by the conversations that we would have. She was a traditional kid, like like most
Mhm.
children are. But then there were these incredibly profound moments daily. It wasn't like
Mhm.
every so often. It was like every day. If I was thinking about something, or talking out loud to myself, she would engage me like, well, wait, what's that? What you talking about? And then I'd be like, oh, well, trying to figure out blah blah blah, and we'd just start talking, having conversations about it, and I would legitimately ask, well, what's your point of view? What are you thinking? How do you feel about it? And she would be incredibly conscious of the information that she got, and then what was being asked of her, and then
Mhm.
problem solving became that kind of a way of life for us as well, even if it was hypothetical problem solving. Like, what would you do in this situation? Or stuff with relatives and cousins. All right, well, this is happening, or this is happening with your friends. What would you do? Just to kind of, I don't know, lean into how she was processing information became something I really enjoyed, and that I just started to do more of.
I love that, and I'm glad we landed here so early in the conversation. I want to unpack that a little bit, but we're here now, and we'll get into the music in a moment.
Yeah,
But I wanted to talk about parenting. Because Black parents, there's a way that so many of us were raised, and so much of what you've already conveyed is a little bit different than what most Black parents would be comfortable with. And I shouldn't say most, but a lot of Black parents would be comfortable with.
for
It's like
sure.
be seen and not heard, that kind of thing with kids. But you really kind of engaged her as an independent person, as somebody with their own agency that should be respected, and helped her to develop her growth as a person. What was it like for you and for RZA? I don't know how you guys, how you co-parented when she was
Hmm.
young, but what was it like for you raising her in that environment around music, letting her be exposed to the artistry, but keeping her away from, all the other stuff that comes with being
Sure.
in entertainment? What was that dance like for you? And how do you feel about the success in your efforts?
That's a really good question too, Ricky. I'm a take everything as it comes type of being, right?
Mhm.
So, when Prana was born, when she came to be, when because like she's saying, I took her on the road at 6 months. Like I only went on one tour without her, and then I said I'm never doing that again. Like and it was only for 30 days, and I was like, yeah, nah, we're not doing that again. I'm straight on that. And she was 2, but after that she came everywhere. I would gauge every situation as far as her being involved, or seeing things, what kind of environments I wanted her around. By the time she was born, I knew I had cut out any fat, trimmed all the fat, made sure that any environment that I was to be in should be a place that she can and should be in, right? And that does require all the walks of life. Either one of the things that I pride myself on in my being kind of the primary parent, because Riz and I are very together as far as co-parenting is concerned.
Mhm.
He doesn't miss a beat. He's involved in every single step and engaging in her development across the board. But I'm the primary parent, in the
Yeah.
home. And I think for me, I knew that she needed to be able to see life as it was. There's no bumpers like at the bowling alley. I needed her to be able
Mhm.
to see different types of people, different socioeconomic positions, different ethnicities, different cultures. Like, that was a huge part of what I wanted Prana to be exposed to, and it was, again, based on the aptitude she already had. I saw it in her from 2 years old, 3 years old. Like, oh, okay, wait a minute, she's sharp. Let me see, obviously with a ton of protection, but let's put her in this environment. Let me see what she
Mhm.
gleans from these environments.
Meet her where she
It
is.
was, uh, in all truth, Prana was a planned child. Like, Riza and I had talked about having Prana for 2 years, and really wanted to I hate to make it talk about you like you're not here, but almost like a science project. Like, no, 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 let's see what kind of human being, what kind of contributor to society we could create with all of this intention and alignment. And she really has, with, of course, our continued alignment and having to always kind of stay in groove with one another
Mhm.
about parenting and about her development. But she really has been exceeded any idea that we had that she could be. But it did require, it required thinking outside of the box. And if not for my mother and the way that I was raised by my mother, I would not have known that the old model of being seen, not heard, is not something that should apply, to beings,
Mhm.
least of all your children, because
Yeah,
this young person is not my mini me. She's a being that came through the experience of life forming. She came through that, but
absolutely.
she is an independent
Absolutely.
being. So instead of me trying to recreate or rewrite me, I need to observe who and what she is, see where the development is every stage of the way, every step of the
Mhm.
way, and then design my parenting style around the being that I'm dealing with. Because one size does not fit all. One child may really need to be seen and not heard because they might need more development, or they might need more instruction on how to express their feelings, or you know what I mean? Like there's
I
everybody's different.
completely get what you mean. And you're
Yeah.
sitting here talking about how great my question was. That answer is everything. I mean, and there's so many nuggets in there. First of all, the intentionality by which you guys went about conceiving her, the
Yeah.
intentionality present in how you guys are rearing her, and most importantly, your ability to listen to and respect Prana in her every stage of her development led to this moment. So kudos to you guys, and I hope that people listening to this really get into the parenting part of this because that's really profoundly important information, I think.
Mm.
Look at the ways so many of us are raised a certain way, and yeah, we're here and we're thriving and we made it through. Sometimes because of how we were raised, many times in spite of how we're raised. But it's
Absolutely.
important to know that children are young human beings, but they are very much human beings. They have their own agency. They're
Yeah.
taking in everything that's happening around them, everything that's being said around them, how they see you move. They're taking all of that in and they're adding that to their list of options and choices that they have in their
Mm.
lives. And
Love
Mm,
so,
list of options. That's
yeah,
good
yeah,
too. I really like that list of options.
yeah, that's real.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's,
It's
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 really
it's
what's
true.
happening.
It's kind of it's interesting too when you think about what's interesting to me, the reason why I call myself a primary parent instead of a single parent or a single
Hmm.
mom, is because the nature of the relationship and the duties that RZA and I both carry in the rearing of Prana, even today at 22. There's because parenting doesn't end. You know what I
No,
mean?
right.
But I think when you haven't had tools to have this kind of idea about parenting,
Hmm.
because I just for anybody who's watching, I don't want anybody to be misled or feel like I've got the parenting answers, or I'm some new wave soft parent or anything like that. Um, but if you don't have the tools, you don't really know that this is even an option. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
especially if you are in a true single parent where you're really handling all of the above, or you're a primary parent where you're not with the father of your child or the mother of your child,
Hmm.
um, then you tend to be living in survival mode all the time. And sometimes, again, if you don't have the tools to implement this kind of development for the child and this relationship that you're trying to nurture,
Yeah,
you default to the thing that you have experienced yourself, or the only thing that you know.
absolutely.
So
You're doing
again,
the
I
best
have
you
to.
can.
You do the
You're doing
best
the
you
best you
can,
can with what you
but
got. Yeah.
you want to make sure that that's understood. That I really, to this day, when people are like applauding my parenting style or applauding Prana, I'm always very quick to say, well, she's the one that's making the decisions to be who she is. These choices that she's making, those are her choices that she's making from a host of other of options, as you said.
Hmm.
So I say that first, and then I have to give credit to my mother and the village that has helped to raise Prana and gave her the example of what being a being is, right? And then
Hmm.
she got to choose, like, not fucking with that, but I like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's humbling for me to sit back and watch every stage of her development from 5 to 9 years old to 12 to 17 to 22, because it is proof that the style is effective, right? For
Hmm.
this being, the style is effective, and we fuss like regular mother daughter. We love like regular mother. Like it's all of it's a mixed
All
bag.
the things.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
all there. But I do really honor and respect her. You.
Yeah,
You know,
I
so
can
I
see
think
it, and
it starts there.
I can see it, and it's mutual. And you touched on something that's really important that I do think transcends, which is remembering that it takes a village, it takes a community to truly rear a child. And so much of what's going on in our societies kind of gives us pause and imploring a village to be part of the process. But yeah, you have to vet them. Yes, you have to find people you trust. You have to trust that, if you're spiritual, you have to trust that God's going to lead the right people into your life and around you. But it's important to have a village help with children because just being in a single parent or just dual parent household without an extended family to care for you, I mean, you can end up in a really toxic environment with your parents
Okay.
and be abused. But the more loving, kind people you have around, the more options that child has to go to for advice and perspective and protection if and when they need it. And so it does indeed take a village. I know for
Yeah.
me, the same thing. It took a village to raise me. We were poor, the welfare, food stamps, all the things.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what I had more than anything is a feeling of safety and a feeling of love from my uncle and my aunts and the extended group of folks that are around helping my mom, who was a young mother, raise me. So kudos to you and RZA, and kudos to you, Prana, for taking in all those options and making so far some great choices with them. It's great. It's love, and the theme of the podcast this season is for love and blackness. And you guys have already modeled and shown various ways of showing love. I'm also curious about this love, and I presume it's love of country music and your artistry. Tell me about, if first of all, is it fair to say that you love country music? Is it fair to say you love the genre that you're operating in? And where did that love arise from? And when did you guys discover that it was living inside you?
Yeah, I think for me the love for country music is a new one. Um because I didn't grow up listening to a whole bunch of country music.
Hmm.
There was what would play on the radio, so you like your Carrie Underwoods and Miranda Lambert, always the girls. I'm always tapped into what they're doing. And but it just was like my least listened to genre, and I think the way country music had been marketed was it just didn't seem like a space that I would be interested in. And
Mm.
Hmm.
so the love for it has come later in terms of us like falling into the genre and therefore falling in love with the genre because I like I said, I'm a nerd. So if I'm doing something, I got to know the history about it. And so falling into, okay, well, what's the history of country music and what's its roots, and really going back and listening for has just made me realize one, just how many genres are similar to each other, or how many artists have like in a way done a country uh album before, and
Hmm.
how it's not as separated as I would have thought. And
Hmm.
especially when it comes to hip hop, which we talk about this a lot, but hip hop and country are the two most American genres to me. It's like hip hop, country, jazz, but hip hop and country especially because it feels like the voice of the person on the street, like the worker, the blue collar, your neighbor. It just feels like the values that have always been a part of uh, America, the good ones at least, are inside of
Hmm.
hip hop and country, and they come out in different ways, but they're both storytelling genres, and so that makes me love country. And I'm still learning a lot. Like even when we go to the CMAs and the
Hmm.
CMT awards and things like that, I'm always just like absorbing as much as I can because this is something that like is kind of a pet peeve for me in hip hop, but I feel like so many, I won't say so many. I feel like some artists are in the hip hop space and don't know their history. And for
Mm.
me, as someone that thinks it's so important to know where you come from, where your elders have been, and where the genre can be going, it's just weird to be in a space and like not know,
Hmm.
you know,
Or not care.
I
or
second
not
that.
care to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Um,
second that. I third that. Can we clone her?
I,
Can we?
child, I'm working on it.
And
No, I mean,
so,
you really spoke truth to power, Prana. That is real. I mean, you should be a student of and really be into learning everything you can about the genre, the thing that you're doing, whether you're a painter, a photographer, a
mhm,
filmmaker, a politician, what you should get into the history, know what you're doing and
yes,
know where it came from and how and what you're stepping into. And you're right, history is really important. And it really makes me a little sad because my friends and I have these conversations all the time. My past is in music. I work in music as a producer and writer and such. And we'll talk about that some other time. But I know who wrote and who played drums on this song in the 70s. And I know who, passed this particular way of playing down to the next person. And, I've got a sense of the history of music so I can really appreciate what we're doing now. We're an inventive people, right? So we're always ready to create the new thing and move on to the new thing, but you can't forget
hmm,
about the past. You can't forget about the foundation that thing is built on. So it's really good to hear a young person that's really invested in that in an organic way. It
yeah,
serves your artistry well and it serves you well. So kudos to
yeah.
you.
No, thank you. I was saying this to mom like probably a month or so ago, but I was telling her about a podcast I had started listening to because I think sometimes when you're like of a culture, you feel like you don't have to learn about the culture because you are
Mm,
it, but it's like, nah. We're not like born with the knowledge of what
Yeah.
came before we were born. And
mhm,
so I've been listening to a podcast that was just about Black history, and it was, talking about the origins of hip hop, and it was talking about um, like prohibition era. It literally would span so many different topics of things I would have never
Hmm.
even thought of, like, oh yeah, past the things we all know, Madam C.J. Walker and George Washington Carver with his peanut butter and all that. But I wanted to know more than that, and I was like, I shouldn't be embarrassed that I don't know. There's nothing
mm,
No.
embarrassing about not knowing. It's actually so much better to say you don't know. I
yeah.
think I think there's more
What people should
people
be
are lacking
embarrassed
in the
about.
humility, to
Exactly.
say.
People should be embarrassed about talking so much when they know so little. That's what they're to be embarrassed
No,
about.
seriously, I'm the first person to go, I don't know enough about the topic to talk about it.
Facts.
I don't
Again,
know.
profound. What about you, Tekeitha? When did this love and country arise for you?
Oh
And
man.
I'm curious too, what RZA said when he heard you guys are gonna do this. I'm so curious.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, the love of country goes back. Like, okay, I'll give you an example. When we first got to Nashville and we got our management, Renee Bell. Shout out to Renee Bell.
Shout out to
And
Renee.
she was, sending me like all these songs and stuff. We were talking about the album, trying to put the album together, and the producers that she had in mind for us to work with for the album. And she was like, "Oh man, I want you to listen to this song," and or she would ask me, "Have you ever heard of da 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 person?" And I'd be like, "No, no, no." And she's like, "Yeah, they have a song called XYZ." And she would like say a lyric, and I'd finish the lyric and knew the melody, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I know these songs. Like my grandmother used to play these songs. My dad used to play these songs. My dad was a huge, what they used to call country and western, like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
TV show movie lover." and
Right.
and then loved the music, right? And my father was born in Little Rock, Arkansas. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was a Texan, born in Texas, born and raised in Texas. And so there's all this like southern, influence that I had growing up, but I didn't know. I knew I loved Dolly Parton, always loved Dolly Parton, you know
Everybody loves
which
Dolly
who
Parton.
doesn't love Dolly? And so like even when Whitney recorded "I Will Always Love You," I knew that was a Dolly Parton song. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so my journey with country music was embedded in me, and I didn't even know it until we started the project, right? And again, like Prana said, it wasn't the genre of music that we would listen to most in the home. We would listen to a lot of rock, actually, like probably rock and hip hop were the top two, and
Mm-hmm.
then jazz probably, and then a lot of alternative
Like
pop,
singer-songwriter,
singer songwriter, like bluegrass,
house,
Right.
house, of course.
like
It's kind
disco
of in that
house.
order. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So country didn't really make a strong appearance in the home. Um, again until probably 2015, and in 2015 when we really started kind of circling the drain about the project,
Hmm.
we did not intend to make country music. We just were singing a cappella together, and I was calling it, like, I was like, I guess the kind of project we should do should be like folk-ish, you know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
guess this would be folk, because I
Yeah.
only wanted to hear acoustic instruments behind us, a
Hmm.
guitar, a banjo, a fiddle, like, but again, not with the mind of it has to be country music. There's no gimmick to what we were doing. It really came from a pure expression.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear
so
you.
yeah,
It,
a little like
it's
that,
Sorry,
country.
that's funny.
swinging the baby.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah, like
interesting.
yeah.
It's so interesting
So
to me in this country how everything gets uh, kind of racialized, and it's not
yeah,
necessarily always a racialized kind of thing. Southern country music's more Southern music than it is necessarily a racialized form of expression, because
100%.
Absolutely.
there have been some amazing songs and songwriters who work in country music as well, and there's been some Black folks that have worked in country music, including some great contemporary artists today, and Rihanna Giddens.
100%.
Kane Brown, Mickey Guyton come to mind, Cowboy Troy, I'm familiar with as well. And of course, you go back, there's Charlie Pride. And people forget, even though he's known for soul music, Ray Charles made arguably one of the greatest country Western music albums
Right.
ever, Modern
Yeah.
Sounds in Country and Western, which is one of
Yeah.
my favorite albums. It's interesting too, because it sounds like country, but it also has like Christmas song kind of vibe
Yeah.
to it,
Totally.
on some of
It's a
it.
great
But
album.
yeah, it's really about the region and the kind of songwriting and the kind of stories that people are telling in songs. That's really, for me, starts to define these genres. And when you think about the notes on the scale and the number of chords that are available, there's a finite number, but there's these
That's right.
infinite numbers of ways that people have found to express themselves using those same notes. And
That's
you
right.
guys are adding your voices to that history. Tell me a little bit more about the album. It's a 12-track debut called Blood Harmony. I know it's coming out on August 11th, and that first single that I saw the video for, Feels Good, which was released on March 17th. It's kind of a punk, pop, country kind of banger. Tell me a little bit about how that single's been received, how that video's received, and what was the process like for you guys making that video?
Mm. Um, where to start? The single has been received really really well, which has been fortunate for us. I think as we get more and more visible, it's going to be interesting and fun to see the reception, because some people are such country purists,
Mm-hmm.
and we are by every means bending and shaking the table, which I like. I like to be a scene when I show up places, so I felt like the music should only match that energy too. But so far so good. People love it. The video has like 2.5 million views on YouTube, which is crazy, legitimately crazy. Every time I failed math once, so I'm always like 2.5 million. Are we
Is it at
sure?
2.5 now? I thought it was 2.4. Oh my gosh. Really?
See, exactly.
2.5.
Like I said, I failed math once, so don't quote me on that. But no, making the video was super fun. I mean, the whole process of the song Feels Good was super fun. Writing it with Shane Stevens and Nash Overstreet was such a great time. We
The
love
quad.
those two. Yeah, that is really a fearsome quartet right there. And the second we finished the song, we turned on was it the Otis music
Otis.
video?
Otis.
Yeah, the Otis music video from Watch the Throne.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we muted it, and then we played Feels Good in the background, and we were like, this is the energy
That's the
that we
Uh,
energy.
need Feels Good to have, which is just like good old fashioned fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things where it can seem frivolous to just be like, oh, we just want a song that's fun. But
mm-hmm.
I feel like life, especially nowadays, we are in this constant news cycle where it's just like pumping fear, fear, fear. They're in your home, they're on the border, they're coming for you. And it's just like, you need to take a deep breath. You need to not
Mm.
think about the lines and the classifications. And that's what Feels Good is about. It's just like, it makes you feel good,
Yeah.
you know?
Again, I say, can we clone her?
It's too much.
Can I get the first copy off the assembly line? Like,
It's
who
too
is this
much.
person?
I
No,
know.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You are so right about that. How have you guys been generally received though in the country music circles? I mean, speaking of the climate that we're in and how people
Yeah.
like to racialize everything, how
Yeah.
have you guys been received in country music circles so far?
I feel like it's been really positive.
Yeah.
Like there's the every, and I feel like mom always like spots them out, but there's the every once in a while of being like, this isn't country. Or my favorite is the person that likes it, but like still's like, it's not country. Like, this is a great song, but it ain't country music.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. I think that's hilarious. But no, and I always, mom and I always feel like the music is meant for the music is meant for. You know, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be for everyone. And if someone's like, I like my country music stripped down, banjo, fiddle, and a real country voice on there,
Right.
then I respect that and they're allowed to have that opinion. Now, if the opinion is coming from the place of, and you're black,
Yeah.
then I say, well, that's silly. You're being silly by having that opinion.
You're being silly now. That's not right.
But no, it's been both by the industry and by the public. It's just been feeling like people are receiving it well and they're ready for different perspectives. You know.
Now, on the flip side, Tekeitha, how are black audiences and your black friends in circle? How are they receiving the fact you guys doing country music? What's that like?
Listen, let me tell you something. They love it. They love it. And I think, to tag on to what P is saying, as far as the industry here, from the team over at CMA, the foundation, from the executives over at CMT, Leslie Fram specifically has been championing us from the very beginning. We have to also reach back and give a huge shout out to people like Mickey Guyton and Kane Brown and Darius Rucker. Oh my gosh, yes,
Darius Rucker
all the way back.
Yeah.
Who actually paved a lane for Prana and I to do what we're doing without so much resistance, right? Because they still, even Mickey at where she's at in the height of her career, will still get savagely attacked, online, and all she's doing is making music. What is this woman doing to anybody? She's lovely,
Yeah,
so we have to, while we're saying, man, the industry is treating us very kind, it is because of that, right? That the people who have come before you and have taken the hits and are still taking the hits. We also have to, make sure that it's clear that gratitude also goes to the team that we have on the infrastructure side of O.N.E Duo, because they're so heavily ingrained in the business that they directed us to, all right, look, these are the people who are going to want to make this record, the record that her and I wanted to make. So they trusted our judgment, trusted our process in order for us to be connected to the right people who would, again, champion O.N.E Duo. So the reception that we're getting from the market is beyond the music, because the music business is a part of the music, and so there's a way that you have to kind of navigate the water to get a certain type of reception. So I just want to make sure we point that out. But as far as the Black audience is concerned, what I've been loving about it is every song as they were kind of getting done, I have what I call my focus group, who they get to hear it, kind of, feel it out and da-da-da. And these are people who would absolutely tell you that they hate country. Not that they don't like it. They hate it. They ain't never listening to it. Wah, wah, wah. And it would be a song, even a song like River of Sins, which is a song that's on the record, was produced by Brent Mayer, who famously produced all of the Judd's albums, right? And they would hear it and be like, well, I don't know what this is, but this is country. Okay, I like that. And it's the song that most of the purists like, right? And then they have one that like feels good or stuck in the middle, which has an 808 in it, so it's like it's more relatable, it's easier, right? Familiar, more familiar to the ear, to the feeling. Then they automatically out the window with that one, like, I love this. Like, let's go, and you know how we
being
are.
humble. You're
as
being humble with relatable. Those are knockers. Those are
nuggets.
bangers. They are banging. I was like, yo, Lester, yo, this is not, yo, this
Yeah,
knocks,
what
bro.
is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that too because, you know, like Prana's saying, we're bending and shaking the table is an understatement. We know that we're ruffling a little bit of feathers and stuff like that, but to her point, I think that people are ready, and the culture, our the Black culture ourselves, we need to actually open our minds up to what we're saying we don't or do like. And Prana stated it very eloquently by saying we didn't see a connection, right? If we don't see
Hmm.
ourselves there, and not only that, if it has been kind of racialized, then it's like, not only do I not like it, I don't want to be there because you don't want me there then. You know what I'm saying? Like we take
Right.
Yeah.
that attitude, right? But I think Prana and I, because of the background of who I am, who her father is, who she is, and then who we are collectively,
Hmm.
we bring in the culture with us wherever we go. We can't help it,
Not compromising.
you
That's a
know.
big important part for us in this space is to not compromise on who we are. Even
Yeah.
a little bit. I feel like, and people can tell when it's disingenuous if the compromise is to try to fit some mold that you want them to like.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Like,
Can't
then
do
what's
it.
the point for any of us to be here doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't do yourself, the culture, or anyone any favors.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer. I mean, the reason for the podcast is because I believe that we're more alike than we are different. And when people embrace and love their authentic selves, it fills that void that exists inside you when you can't love or embrace your authentic self, right? And when you don't love yourself, you got that void. People are always trying to fill it with material things, likes, follows, titles, or by diminishing other people to make themselves feel better. But I
Facts.
think fundamentally, and I used to roll my eyes when I heard President Obama say this, but I really do think at the core, human beings in general and Americans are fundamentally good people. But we've been so whipped into a frenzy of fear by politicians and people that want power that we've losing track of our shared and common humanity, and that
Mm.
music and arts can bring people together. You guys bringing who you are to this genre of music
Wow.
and doing it so joyfully, so powerfully, so professionally, I can't help but touch people who want to be touched, right? People who
Wow.
want to be touched will receive it, and you're going to continue to receive the blessings from all these people who, you may help to warm some hearts or whatever. So it's really good to see, and it's important for you guys to show up the way you are and understand and know that we are here to support you guys and to have your back when it does get tough, and there'll be moments. But I'm really happy to hear that you're doing this and that you're doing it the way you're doing it, because there's a lot of love in it, and you can hear it in the music, right? I can hear it in the music, I can see it in the videos, and I think it's one of those things that this country needs right now. We need opportunities and reasons to come together, opportunities and reasons to acknowledge each other's humanity, and opportunities and reasons to lean into this great tapestry of culture that we've built in this country over the years and continue to build in real time. And so
Mm.
you guys are just great at that. So I really appreciate it. You know, but Keitha, you brought up an interesting subject when you talked about the business side of it. This is at the end of the day the entertainment business. And as
Right.
much as you're accomplished on the creative side, Tekeitha, you've got a great business background. I want you to share a little bit about that. And specifically, I'm interested in you sharing for people, you guys, so many people are working independently now, right? Technology is kind of even the playing field. But within that, you still have to be able to handle business in order to be successful as an artist. Talk a little bit about your experience in business, what you enjoy about it, and really specifically, how you guys are working with the group of people that are helping push your careers forward, because I think it's really interesting how you guys are moving.
Yeah. Well, I think I think the best way to summarize this would be, um, this is my 29th year in music,
Mhm.
as a creative and as an entrepreneur. I've had just years like trial and error, and not knowing what to do, and trusting the direction and guidance of others, and which is also very good. You have to do that.
Mhm.
You have to collaborate. um but with One the Duo, and I'll kind of just shift it to this direction so we can kind of nail it down and be faster this way.
Mm-hmm.
With One the Duo, when Prana brought the project to me, which I'll let her tell that story as well, but when Prana brought the project to me, I knew from the very beginning that I was going to have to use all of the collective experiences that I had in the business of music, all the failures, where failures perspective,
Mm-hmm.
however anybody takes that, but all the failures, all of the trials and tribulations to really figure out the best streamlined approach to the business of One the Duo. I knew very early that Prana was going to have to develop a lot before we could actually even start working on the record. So I needed time for that. And while she was developing, I was masterminding the infrastructure of One the Duo, which I knew we needed a type of partner that could understand that creative control was paramount. It was something
Mm-hmm.
that could not be sacrificed and could not be compromised. Because we know that side, right? But we also needed a very highly intelligent and out the box thinking label, group, team, whoever, from management all the way up to the label that we would choose to be with. Um, the infrastructure was the most important thing to me, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice building that foundation for Prana and I to stand on so that the project would have the biggest and greatest chance for success. Um, Coming to Nashville and connecting with Renee Bell, who was actually brought to us through a very old and dear friend and one of my partners today. Her name is Eva Reese from Germany. She comes from RCA in New York. She broke Wu-Tang internationally. She's worked in the rock space and in the hip hop space. She's just a phenomenal businesswoman herself, of just a phenomenal woman in general. So she connected us to Renee Bell and her partners at the time. Renee comes from Sony Music for 30 years, highly respected, known as the hit maker. You know what I mean? She knows a song. She was a VP of A&R at Sony, and starting from that point and then knowing the kind of team that we were looking for after taking all the meetings and really seeing, well, do we want a major label thing? Do we go with an indie label? Like, what do we do? And long story short, connecting with Visionary Media Group and Ron Zamber, the chairman and CEO of the parent company of that media group, he truly understood the vision of One the Duo and what Prana and I were not only trying to create through the music, but the type of business alliance that we wanted to have. So that's how we ended up with the team that we work with now, was really through the alignment. They shared a vision in how they're approaching creatives, and not just artists, but creatives in general, because it is a media group with a record label distribution arm, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, setting up the infrastructure of our business in a way where they know that we want to have 5-6 other streams of revenue that the music is a marketing tool for. So instead of looking at music as like, okay, Prana, we're gonna right we're gonna put out these records, and God willing we can sell 200,000 copies, or God willing we can be on the road all year, for 2 years on the road nonstop. Like, all right, like, no, let's work smart. Let's work smart. We can work hard too, but let's work smart first, right?
Yeah.
And it was one of the first things that I talked to Ron Zamber about. It was like, listen, I have zero intention of having my daughter out there, slaving away, just to be quite honest, or being used for her creativity and the energy, and having her on the road 250 days a year to earn a living and having the company making more money than she's going to be making. Absolutely. I don't want that, And he was like, I'll do you one better than that. We only want partnerships. So we'd rather have you as a partner in XYZ capacity. So that's what we did. We did a partnership agreement with Visionary Media Group as One the Duo. And with that, we have, I won't give too much away, but other ventures that are coming through the media group that the music will then just be the marketing tool for. So we're not as we're not as pressed or feeling like under the thumb of sales. Obviously you want to stream because streaming is just exposure, right? So of course we have milestones that we would love to hit. We're doing our best to get to expose ourselves, right?
And it gives the
This is
ability
great
to
marketing.
create without the weight of, okay, everything is hinging on this song, on this album. So it's like one of the things Mom and I have talked about now that Blood Harmony is finished and has been finished for quite some time is just like we haven't been back in the writer's room since we finished the album. And that's because we don't feel the rush too. We're like really happy with what we've created, and now all of our focus is just making sure that deserves, that gets the time and in the light that it needs. Without rushing to be like, okay, but once that's done, we got to make sure we do this, and we need to get this song synced. And it's just like it takes the fun out of it, and
does.
It's like it already is a job. It already is something that you have to sacrifice for, but it doesn't have to turn into this ulcer in your life.
You know what I want to say too, Prana? The pressure. Speaking to the pressure, having this kind of design also removes the pressure of having to fit into the genre. Prana spoke about that earlier, where you feel like you have to make the music for this particular audience so that they will bite, right? Yeah. Well, no. How about you do what the Most High is telling you to do? How the gift that you're supposed to bring is supposed to come through, that you have to copy or follow anyone. There's a unique expression that you have that does not require you to have a blueprint. God is the blueprint, and He's bringing that through this connection, and it's all love based. That's why I love your podcast as well, and love what you're doing for this month as well around love, because that is truly what Pran and I are trying to get to come through the music and come through people who encounter us together or separate. You should walk away feeling like, I think that girl loved me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the energy. So in any case, foundationally, that's where all the 29 years of what I've been through, the partnerships that I have. Currently I'm a partner in a label in Paris. Currently I am a senior advisor at the parent company at Visionary Private Equity Group to Ron Zamber, and he's mentoring me in my growth as an executive. There are many shifts and turns that I would like to take that are beyond music, that are well into TV and film, and into diving deeper into philanthropy as well, that I will do through this company and through this group. But for me, the foundation is the infrastructure, knowing what's needed. I'm incredibly insightful, even when I not trying to be. It's like I can see things like almost like the Matrix vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like oh, I know what I'm supposed to do here, and I know the people that I need, or the beings that I need, right? And how I want to reciprocate energy back to them. So there's always a figure eight. There's always some reciprocity. There's not everybody can't fill the position. You know what I'm saying? So and me knowing that has really helped me to kind of just evolve in not just evolve in business, but evolve as a being who's working through this business,
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
It does make complete sense. And what I love and what emerges for me and what you just shared is two things. One, intentionality, that you were very intentional about how you wanted to see what you were called to do come into existence in this world for yourself, and particularly for your daughter, right?
100%.
The intentionality of that, the foresight involved in that's important. That's critical, because so many times, so many of us kind of go through and I have talent, I have a dream, I have this thing, and I'm just going to kind of see what happens. And it takes a certain level of intentionality in order for you to receive things that the way that you'd like to see them come to you, right? Yeah. You got to be flexible, of course, but still intentionality is important. But that intentionality would have meant nothing without the second thing that emerged for me, which is your ability to develop these relationships over time. And I think so often I hear young artists that I've worked with or I've counseled, because I used to manage artists. So often I hear people talk about networking, right? And they're talking about going to a party, they're trying to get a business card from or connect with the biggest person in the room. And when Issa Rae talks about networking, she's talking about and networking with those people next to you and building those
Absolutely.
relationships, because relationships cannot be microwaved. They take time to grow. They take time to develop. You have to be in the trenches with people for months and years before they trust you that you can just pick up the phone and do the things that your intentionality calls
That's
for
right.
you to do. And so I just think that it's important to call that out for, some of the young creators, because a lot of young creatives listen to the show and I just want them to be intentional about what they want to do, but also understand that you got to be willing to give in order to receive, and relationships
Yes.
aren't microwaved. You've got to take time and develop relationships. You
Yes.
guys are y'all are amazing, man. This has been a great conversation. I'm so curious. We know the album's coming on August 11th. What
Yes.
else is next for One the Duo?
Ooh, what else is next?
Well, CMA Fest is coming up. We're performing at CMA
true.
Fest in a week, a little over a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Here in Nashville. Yep,
Okay.
here in Nashville. The country music's biggest festival every year. So this will be our second year.
And
I'm
what
playing
what
the
date is that?
spotlight
Because for
stage.
those who are listening, sometimes we record these the week of, sometimes we record these a little bit in advance. This one's a little bit in advance, so that event probably will have passed by the time this episode drops. But we certainly will not have passed your release date, and we'll make sure to put links in there for people to watch the video, for people to know where to. Is the album available for pre-order yet on the major streaming
It
services? Do we
is,
know?
yeah. Wherever you listen, you can pre-save That Harmony.
Pre-save, pre-order. Tour will be coming as well. We're looking at launching the tour the day of the album release. So you have to, follow us on Instagram at One the Duo and Facebook and TikTok. Everywhere we'll have dates and stuff put up there in the next probably in the next month. We'll start rolling the dates out.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. I'm
Tour.
excited. And one last thing, let's unpack before y'all go.
Hmm.
The name of One the Duo. Explain where that name came from. I don't want to leave without knowing that.
Yeah, no. So to make One the Duo an acronym was actually Mom's idea, but we wanted to call ourselves One in the first place because people always, confuse Mom and I's voices for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of the time, if I would answer Mom's phone for her, I started to get into the habit of immediately going, "Hey, it's Prana." Because other times I would just say, "Hey," and they would just start launching in, and then I'd be like, "Awesome, it's Prana." I'm not sure if you wanted me to know that, but I do now. And so,
trust me, it could be worse, because it used to happen to me and my mom before my voice changed. Think about that.
That's hilarious.
Go ahead.
And Mom and I just were constantly saying the same thing at the same time. We're just two very in sync people. So much that people would call us Tekeitha. That was also an infamous name for when we were, on our one type behavior.
Yes.
Or we even use one as a verb. So when
Wanting.
Mom and I, we say wanting. When Mom and I like go outside and we haven't seen each other yet, and we'll like go outside and then we'll be like wearing the same colored outfit or complementary colors, where like she's wearing a black top and white pants, I have a white top, black pants type of moment.
Wanting.
So that's how us being called One in the first place came to be. But the acronym was because, like you said, everything we do has to have intention. Mom is never going into something without, neither of us, but Mom especially, because she instilled that in me, is never going into something just doing it, not thinking, just jumping, just going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so observant, noetic, effervescent are the words that we like to use to describe our approach to life, our approach to songwriting, and it really just describes us perfectly. And noetic, because a lot of people are just introduced to that word.
I was going to say, define that word for people.
Yeah, means in relation to mental activity or the intellect. And so observant, obviously we're big observers. I can be the loud person in the room, But my default when I'm in a new situation is to be quiet and to observe. Noetic, like I said, we're some brainiacs over here. I play trivia like 3 times a month with my friends, and we are known winners. Okay, not to brag or anything.
I don't want to brag.
And then effervescent, which just means bubbly, is definitely also how Mom and I are, and how we want our music to feel. We want you to feel
Lifted.
light and like you're in a warm hug by both of us and loved. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love everything about this. You know, first of all, I love you guys as a family unit. It's dope. I love hearing that RZA is a dope, responsible partner in all of this. I
yes.
love that he's been that is so healthy. It's such a great relationship. It's such a great example to other people of how these things can flow. And it's also good for him because I hate for him or anybody to be on the wrong side of both of y'all at the same time. You start
Yeah.
one up on people with a bad attitude. That would be
We
good.
don't want
You want to
that.
be on the right side of this one.
Yeah. Listen,
But
I'm almost all Leo in my chart, so I can get
oh,
quite
my Leo sister.
yeah.
I'm a Leo as well. Oh my goodness.
Oh, we see
Female
you.
Leo. Now it all makes sense. And Tekeitha, Prana Supreme. Please unpack that for me. Where'd that name come from? Because that is, but Black people, we're gonna name our children some names, and I love
Always.
everything about it. Tell me a little bit about that name. Where'd that come
Well, prana, which by definition means life force. Um, I was reading a book called The Etheric Double, and it's about the health aura of man, right?
from?
And I'm reading it, and I call RZA. I'm about 5 months pregnant, and I don't know if prana. It must have been 4 or 5 months, but I hadn't. We didn't know the sex yet, and
Mhm.
so I call RZA and I say, all right, so listen, I've got this word. I got the name for the baby. I said, well, it's actually a word, but and I knew it was odd. You know, I had never heard of anyone named Prana. And I said, I'm reading this book, and you know, it's about the etheric. It's called the etheric double, and blah blah blah. And I said, so I'm going to tell you the definition before I say the word because I don't want you to be looking at sound, you know, thinking I'm crazy. He was like, all right, go ahead. So I tell him the definition, and but I read like a paragraph. You know, I didn't just say life force. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
Mhm.
it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And he said, oh yeah, prana. And I said, yes, yes. I said, yeah, a boy or a girl. The prana. That's the baby. He's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm with it. Come to find out, when he was younger, I want to say 18, 19 years old, he was trying to beat a case in New York and Ohio, New York, one of the two. And he says, yeah, I told myself if I got out of the situation, this is what I was going to do with my life. This is how I was going to change my life. This is what I was going to devote my life to. And then here are the children I'm going to have. And these are all their names. And Prana was on the paper. So, and he's a notebook keeper, right?
There's
So odds are he
intentionality
still has the
again.
notebook,
Right.
and so prana, and then supreme. As for me, it's her whole name, Prana Supreme. You know,
Mhm.
it's I just didn't put a hyphen. You know, it's really her
Yeah.
whole name. And I remember for a while when she, you know, went into school and. Or if people would hear me calling her, you know, yelling for her, I always call her Supreme, you know, like kind of just by habit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they thought it was like a nickname that I had given her, that it wasn't her real name. And I was like, no, 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 it's on her birth certificate. Like, that's her name.
No, it's so funny. It really Prana Supreme really does feel like my first name. Like that's my first name. So whenever Mom says that, I get shook. And I like I can't remember when. I feel like it was recently, but I don't know. Time is an illusion to me. But either way, Mom was like Prana Supreme, and I came out and I was like, what? And she was like, why'd you say what like that? I'm like, why are you saying my whole name? What is happening?
What have I done?
What is happening here? But no, so many people, especially in school, when they would see my name, they were like, wait, Supreme's like actually your middle name? And it's also my Instagram handle. And so I feel like strangers probably think that I'm just some like super ego. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Egomaniac.
Oh, right.
It's my government name.
No,
Okay.
Let them think.
to me,
Let them think what they think. Prana
it's
Supreme, the young Leo Queen,
a
Yeah.
young
and
Leo queen. It's the only name that could suit how much intention went into creating her.
Well,
like
that
legitimately.
intention has now become very, very real on all fronts, from
Yeah.
her to the duo to the music. You guys, this has been a great conversation. I
Thank you.
really appreciate you guys. I wish you the best. And
Thank you.
real quick, one more time, just give me those social media handles for anybody who's listening.
Yes, we are One the Duo, ONETheDuo, across all platforms, even our website. Yeah, go check us out. We post lots of videos and funny stuff. And if you're a comic nerd, I quiz mom on comic characters every once in a while. So
It's bad.
it
Check
is.
them out, y'all. They are amazing people that you guys have heard. They're great artists, and don't be afraid of the country, because I'm telling you, there's some bangers on this release, and I can't wait to hear the whole thing. Thank you so much once again, One Duo. You guys be well, and blessings to you.
You as
You
well. Thank
too.
you so much,
Peace.
Ricky, for having us.
Mwah.